Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is New York City Councilmember Joann Ariola. Councilmember, thank you so much for joining me once again.
Thank you so much for having me on, Brittany.
New York City has been in the national spotlight over the past few weeks. Last week, the city's mayor, Eric Adams, was indicted on campaign finance, bribery, and conspiracy charges after allegedly accepting illegal campaign donations from the Turkish government. What's your reaction after hearing the news?
The moment I heard the news, I took to social media and immediately calmed my own constituency, letting them know that although this was happening at City Hall and to our mayor, that our district would continue to run, it would continue to have services provided for them, and that I was there to continually support and provide services for their quality of life.
What have your constituents been saying about this news? Because there have been, from the Adams administration, multiple resignations in recent weeks. There have been calls for Adams to resign. It feels like this administration is in chaos. What are your constituents in Queens saying?
They're very grateful that I did put out a message that was so positive and reassuring to them. They understand what's happening, at the administrative level. They also understand that there could possibly be some type of an agenda behind all of these asks for resignations, because if you really look at who's asking, it's the really far left. And I think the majority of people, especially from my district, are thinking to themselves, be careful what you wish for.
Let's talk about that a little bit further, because in response to the indictment, Adams did proclaim his innocence. He did eventually, he pleaded not guilty, and he vowed to fight what he called these injustices. And he said this, quote, "I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target, and a target I became." Thoughts on his statement?
I think that in the beginning, the mayor was welcoming illegal migrants into our city. And then at one point, he realized that the amount of people coming into the city was insurmountable, unsustainable, and even noted at a town hall that this particular crisis, without the help of the federal government, would destroy our city. And at that point, I think there was a shift in his ideology, and he was then on a plane to DC to ask for money, to ask for help, and to ask for a change of designation. And that's when everything kind of went upside down, when his treasurer's home was raided and he turned right back around.
The 57-page indictment, I'm not sure if you had a chance to read some of it or all of it. It is pretty damning, and in the indictment, they lay out a really strong case of quid pro quo. Do you think he can effectively lead in light of these charges?
I think he has every intention to continue to lead, but what I do see is the people who help him lead, like his commissioners, like his special advisors, like his deputy mayors, are all being subpoenaed, or their electronics are being seized. So what's happening is the government is kind of taking the oxygen out of the administration, which would at some point cause the mayor to not be able to effectively do his job.
Do you think he should resign? There have been calls from both Republican and Democratic members of City Council for him to resign. There have been calls also from Republican and Democrats in Congress for him to resign. Do you think he should step down?
Any one of us can call for him to resign or not. Really, it lies in the hands of Kathy Hochul, and it lies in the hands of different mechanisms, whether it's the mayor resigning on his own, Kathy Hochul recalling him, or a panel that's led by the city council speaker, which would cause him to be removed. But I don't think anyone has a real appetite for that, because he has a large base of supporters that Kathy Hochul is not looking to disenfranchise. So we have to just wait and see how this plays out. And quite frankly, in my opinion, if Scott Stringer, Lander, or Jumaane Williams wants to be the mayor, they should do it the old-fashioned way and run for it in a general election.
What do you think of his replacement? Because as you noted, you mentioned the New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. That would be his interim replacement if he stepped down. What do you make of him?
I think that everyone is very fearful of that happening, because Jumaane has not been silent on his displeasure with the NYPD. He's not been silent about his far left agenda, and this is not something that the majority of New Yorkers are for. In fact, many who were maybe not as conservative before have become much more conservative because they've seen crime rise, they've seen, thefts rise, they've seen sexual assaults rise, they've seen crime rise within 75 percentiles, and they just don't want to see any more of that. So what they need now is a steady hand who can keep this city safe. And I don't believe that Jumaane Williams he may change what he's going to say now that he wants the job, but that has not been how he has been acting all the way through, especially pushing legislation like the All Stops bill in the city council for it to pass, which only hinders police from doing their jobs.
I want to ask you who you think that steady hand could be, but I feel really lucky. I've talked to some New York City lawmakers, including Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, who is a Republican representing Staten Island. And she said that although Jumaane Williams is liberal, she thinks that's the better option, that Adams steps down immediately, and then Jumaane Williams is the interim mayor until there's a special election. Do you think that's the better option?
I think the better option is that we remain governing this city. I think that the mayor has proven that he can still govern the city. He's been going out, he's taking meetings, he's making sure that everything is working. I love Nicole Malliotakis, and I do respect her opinion, but I do believe that in 80 days, which would be the term that Jumaane Williams would be the interim mayor, I think in 80 days, he could effectively destroy our city with executive orders.
I'm curious what your conversations with other council members have been like. There are a handful of Republicans. The city council is largely Democrats. What have your colleagues been saying about this?
It's only the progressive Democrats led by AOC that have been asking for his removal. Any of the others are moderate, and they really have not weighed in. They're doing the same thing I am, assuring their district that they will continue to get the services that they need.
I know you said earlier that you're looking for a steady hand to lead this city. Let's say Adams is ousted, he does step down. Who do you think is the good replacement for him?
I'm hoping for someone to step up to the plate, because those who have been saying they would like to run for mayor or would be an interim mayor certainly would not be my choice to run this city.
Any names at the top of your head?
We haven't had anybody really come out yet. Nicole Malliotakis would make a great mayor.
She told me she's not running. She ran in 2017. She said she's planning to stick it out in Congress. But as I'm sure you're well aware, New York City is a largely blue city. There are some Republicans in city council like yourself. But realistically, do you think a GOP mayor would be elected? Or could you see yourself getting behind someone who is more moderate?
I can absolutely see myself getting behind someone who's more moderate. I've done that in the past. It didn't matter what the enrollment was. I think that a common sense Democratic candidate, a common sense Republican candidate is exactly what this city needs right now, moving into the next election. And if Mayor Adams is able to if he's able to remain and able to run again, I think that he probably will. And then we'd have to see, what happens then.
I know you're saying that you're not calling for his ouster, for him to step aside, but would you support him if he did decide to run again?
Supported his mayoral terms, but I did not. I was not someone who was campaigning for him when he ran for mayor. So I'll just reserve that right until 2025 and see who presents themselves.
Of course, of course. And as a member of city council, have you talked to him or his office since this indictment was unsealed last week?
I've not spoken to him, but I still have work before his administration. And yes, of course, I've spoken with a number of people in his administration to make sure that our meetings are still on and that we can still move forward. That is my main thrust. Can we move forward with running this city? Can my constituents still count on me to make sure they're getting what they need? And the moment that they cannot, then I will come out fully and tell you whether or not I feel he should stay. But as
So
of
you
right now, we're still we're still having our garbage picked up. Our police are still on the street. Our fire department is still out there. Our teachers are going to work every day. And my office is open every day serving our constituents.
I know you're saying that, hey, I can still serve. This is just a distraction. Do you think at large Mayor Adams still can serve? Do you think the city government is still functioning under all of this chaos right now? Because what we're seeing from other conversations is people saying he needs to resign. The government is not functioning as of right now.
But you're hearing that mostly from the radical far left. That's who you're hearing that from. Of course they want to take over. Of course they want to dismantle the police. Of course they want to take away any type of law and order that we have. Of course they want to close Rikers Island. Of course they want to continue with cashless bail and they want to continue with turnstile justice. We have to stop all these things. Of course they want to keep illegal migrants from entering our city's borders by the tens of thousands when we cannot afford it anymore. Of course they want all of that. I don't want any of that, and neither does my constituents.
Do you think then, is what you're saying, that if Mayor Adams didn't come out with a tougher tone on the migrant situation in New York City, do you think these charges would have been here? Or what are you saying about that?
I think that I would not put anything past the current administration, but I also think that you would need concrete evidence of that, and there isn't. And of course, the administration has the power to initiate an investigation, but it would be very difficult to prove motive of political retribution. But the timing is kind of suspect.
The timing suspect, but when you see the indictment, when you see those text messages, what do you think about those?
I think that the mayor has a lot of explaining to do. And I think that he will have his day in court. We're a country that believes in due process. We're a country that believes in innocent until proven guilty. And he is afforded that same, entitlement of due process and being innocent until proven guilty. Yes, 57 pages of an indictment looks pretty damning, but he will have the chance to prove it wrong, and the prosecution will have a chance to prove it right. And in the end, we will find out what the truth is.
Well, Councilmember, as the situation continues to develop, I hope you come back on and join me to discuss it, to break it down. Thank you so much again for joining me.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.